Welcome to part 5 of the face rigging character creation tutorial. This is a direct continuation of part 4, and we'll be concluding the animation and rigging portion of it. So let's get started. Now we've got everything basically set up. As far as we've got our eyes moving left and right, and we can close our eyes with some decency. I think one thing we can do now is we've got these eyebrows, X and Y's. And so this is where you can, if you wanted, you could animate them individually. And you can move them horizontally and vertically. But for the most part, I think because I did create them both on the same layer, I'm only going to have them move in the Y direction. So basically, if I raise one eyebrow or either eyebrow, they're both going to be moving up basically at the same rate. So what we can do is brow Y and, both sides in the Y direction. Let me go over my parameters. And I'm guessing they're going up. Yeah, raises eyebrows from -1 to 1, and the neutral state is in 0. And so with that, there we go. Got this. We're going to create, I'm actually going to create 3 keyframes on both of these. And this is because what I actually want is just kind of the way I have this character set up is I don't really care to have the eyebrows to go any lower. But if I do really bring up my eyebrows in face rig, I do want them to raise slightly. So I've got the keyframes in the center. And I've got keyframes back here just to maintain that same position. Now the only trick now is I'm going to select both of these keyframes and I'm going to move them up just a little bit. There we go. So now for the most part, if either keyframe or if either one is raised, they're both going to be raised. And it's just a little bit. Just to kind of give it a little bit of that feature. And as you can see here, there are things like eyebrow angles, X positions, and I do think some things like these eyebrow angles may not get translated into face rig, just kind of looking at the dots and how it positions and understands things. But I could be totally wrong. You'll have to look into some of the face rig's documentation, or I may do more in-depth study of the program if there's enough interest in it. I don't really know what this brow left form and right does. The last real tough animation is going to be the mouth opening animation, and that's not going to be too bad. What that really is we're just going to have this outer jaw piece, and along with the inner mouth. Don't want to select everything. The jaw, the inner mouth, the lower teeth, and the upper teeth are all going to get animated, and this is just going to be for while you're talking and stuff like that. And so we're going to go look at our parameters again. And we got mouth open from 0 to 1, naturally in the 0, and it causes it to open. So at 0, the mouth is closed. At 1, it is open. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to go to my mouth open, and I'm actually going to create 2 keyframes. And we go from 0 to 1, and at 1 it is open. So at 0 is the only part that I really have to animate, and that's just the closing animation. Now it's going to get a little bit interesting as I try and figure out how I want to do this, because obviously if I just pull up the jaw all the way, it's going to squish the whole head. I don't quite want that, so I can go to level 2 of this. And I should be able to... Actually, you know what? I think I'm going to go to level 1. I'm going to bring... Oop, can I not move those points? Oh wait, I think I have it backwards. Haha. Alright. I've got my keyframes already made, so I'm just going to select the jaw part. Let's go to level... No, level 3 is everything. Level 2 is those points. Level 1 is the individual. Okay. I just wasn't liking it for a little bit. That's fine. Because what I'm wanting to do is, as I close my mouth, I want it to close, but I also want this lower part of my jaw to get thicker, just because that's going to kind of indicate how the mouth is moving, or the rotation as the lower jaw goes up. And I'm just trying to figure out a way that doesn't look too weird. Now, something I am noticing is I'm kind of wishing that there was a point in the middle so I could bring this middle section up without bringing everything with it. But let me see. Maybe that will work. Let's try and make it symmetrical. And I'm bringing this out just a little bit to kind of square up the lower jaw. And I actually think that might work. And let's keep this lower cheek fluff kind of like that. Well, kind of smooth it all out. That is kind of weird. Something else I may look into is actually having this cheek fluff on its own separate layer in future rigs, because that is kind of squishing up that cheek fluff. And I do want that to stick out, but I need to bring this inner mouth up. So one thing I think I may try and do, now this is where we get to see how much it's going to mess everything up. But what we're actually going to do is delete this jaw deformer. Oh, actually something you need to do is make sure you clear out all the deforms before you delete it, because I'm pretty sure if you delete the deformer with deforms happening, it's going to keep the original shape of the jaw of the deformed state, so you're not going to be able to undo it. I do think I ran into that issue last time. So now that we're back in this neutral position, we're going to go into the jaw, and this was mostly just curious because I wanted to see if I could get away with less adjustments. But we're going to delete that jaw, and we're going to add a new one, and then let's crank this up to, let's go with an odd number. We're going to go 7 by 7. We're going to go 5 by 5. Hoping that it works out decently. We're going to create that. Now I've got a lot more of these points, and thought, oh no. Do we not get one in the middle? Well, we got these Bezier hand, no? Why don't we get one in the middle? We totally picked odd numbers. Alright, well, let's try this one more time. We got our jaw. Create one. Let's try 4 by 4. Actually, let's go with 6. And then we're going to go 6 by 5. Sure. All right. What? 2, 3. Okay, where? At least I have this in the middle now. So 1, 2. Okay, I think I get it. I get it now. I'm gonna create one of these again. And we're gonna make these divisions. We're gonna make this go up We're going to go this to 10. And this we're going to go to 4. There we go. There's a much more editable version. Let's go back into this investigator and rename this to jaw. Okay. There we go. Cool. So we're back to our keyframes. Mouth opening. We've got this. We've got our jaw selected. Create 2 keyframes. And all we need to do at this point is just have the mouth closed and try and retain as much of this cheek structure that I've already got there. And I think I can do that by bringing this in along with these Bezier handles. There we go. Try and keep things symmetrical just because that will amount to something in the end. That's not too bad. It is kind of annoying that it's not perfectly centered, but that's just kind of an error in the drawing part. Keep that nice and symmetrical. And another thing I'm noticing is the head does feel a little bit too high up, and I do want to bring these cheeks down a little bit. So what I'm going to do is I've got this full head mesh. It's not keyframed to anything, so this is going to be a universal translation. I'm going to bring it down a little bit. And then we're going to go back to our jaw, and now we need to try and figure out how to bring back some of this cheek structure. So we're going to go into level 3 and try and bring some of these out a little bit. There. That's not too bad. I need to figure out a little bit more on how to structure some of the fluff to kind of match and mesh a little bit better. But that's not too big of a deal. But now we've got a mouth opening and closing animation. What we need to do now is we need to add the same stuff to the inner jaws and outer jaws and everything. So when we're closed, the teeth, we've already got their 2 keyframes. We're just going to move them up just a little bit. That's a little weird because technically the upper jaw isn't moving. So what we're going to do is we're just going to move it up just enough to get it out of the way. Just so you don't see that front teeth. Slightly unnatural, but I'm okay with it. Next thing we're going to do is we're going to select the inner mouth, and we're going to do the lower teeth at the same time. These also need their keyframes. I do believe they already have their 2 keyframes. But we're going to take those, and they don't have a mesh. Where's my control handles? Come on. I need to deform you. What the hell? Can I has controls, please? Oh. There we go. I need to be on an actual keyframe in order to get those handles. Good to know. So we've got our mouth closed. Point. And all we're going to do is we're going to take that inner mouth, bring it up so it's hidden. I'm going to take this lower jaw and do the same thing. Let's see how that goes. Yeah, that's not too bad. One thing I actually do think is as the mouth opens, I'm actually going to take the inner mouth part, bring it down just a little bit. Yeah, that's not too bad. He definitely needs more of a chin though. Let's see what we can do with the jaw. Jaw. There we go. Give him a little more of a jaw. There we go. That's not too bad. Next time I do want to try and see if I can get this centered right, because having this offset grid is kind of annoying. There might be a setting to fix that, but I'm not sure. But that's not bad. I'm pretty okay with that. Especially because when it's all said and done, it's going to be zoomed out like that on your live stream, and it's not going to be a big deal. He does definitely need more of a lower jaw though. Huh. Because when it's open, it looks great, but that's because the jaw point is there. Let me see if there is an adjustment I can do for that. Let's see, can we bring this out anymore? This is something I'll figure out as I get a little bit better with the program. But that's a little bit better. Yeah. There we go. So now we've got the majority of our basic movements. We've got our eyes looking around. We've got our eyelids blinking. Now we really just need the major movements. And that's going to be the full body rotation and the head tilt left and right. So for that, okay, so we've got our X, and that's going to be the body rotation. And for that, we're really I'm just going to do one big deform on this full body. And all I'm going to be doing is kind of pulling the middle portions over to the sides. Just a little bit to kind of give the feeling of some rotation. We're going to make 3 keyframes on it so that we do maintain that perfectly centered point. And we don't want to do a full translation. Now this is the only annoying part, is because the Bezier handle is right in the center. That's also where the grab the whole thing option is. Huh. Kind of curious what I can do to fix that. This might, well, actually let me just create another deformer to cover that. And I think I did this one by default last time. Was it 2x5? I don't know. Okay, so parent of the selected object, and we're going to create the divisions. We want not 2, but we want 3 horizontal and 3 vertical. And let's go with 7 by 7. Let's see how that goes. Okay, so now I've got these bezier handles surrounding the body. So I can now more adequately pull off the feeling of a rotation. Nothing super crazy. Going back to this X, we're going to add 3 keyframes to this. And then this is going to be X. It causes it to face the right side of the screen. So we're going to be looking left on this one. I know I got a nice feeling of rotation before, but I don't know exactly how I got it. But we'll do something like this and see what that does, because that's more of a shift than a rotate. And to do the real rotation, I really need to get this nose point moved without everything else. Oh, and as you can see, we're distorting a little bit too much. Let's see. Okay, we're going into 3. Yeah, this might be a limitation. I really messed up when I made those eyelids. I needed to make them much bigger and cover more area. So unfortunately, horizontal overall rotation isn't going to be too great. Might be able to just kind of squish it a little bit that way. Maybe some overall deforms. Yeah. Nothing great, but it'll work for now. You'll learn a little more each time. Actually, one thing I'm kind of thinking is maybe in the very center, we'll actually narrow him up just a touch. This is more like a distorted piece of paper. But it is a tiny bit of a rotation-esque thing. And then we've got the Z. And this is going to be the head's tilt. And this one we also need linked in the same way. But I think that we can do on the sub layer. So we've got this. We're going to create 3 keyframes. Actually, no, we don't want on that. Do I have one on just the head? And do I have keyframes on it? I do not. Okay, that's great. Because that'll let me do a little bit of a head tilt. So we're going to go with the head and the full body layer. For angle Z, create 3 keyframes. And with just the head, we're going to have a little bit of a rotation. And then we're going to have a little bit of a rotation the other way. Cool. And he's looking a little high. There we go. Little bit of that, and then on that body layer, okay. So when we're centered, so this is where I'm going to have to do the multiple keyframes for each combination now. But that's not a big deal. In the center, and as the head rotates, we're going to want to push it just a little bit more. And then we're going to push it a little bit more. Again. There. So there's a little bit of rotation there. And then we're going to need to do the same thing. But with this one, we're going to go a little bit down and a little bit over. And then on this side, go a little bit down and a little bit over. Last, oop. Where am I? There we are. Last section. A little bit down, a little bit over. And then, wait a second. Okay. Just because you can't do this link thing again with the X and Z at the same time, so it's kind of annoying. But we've got center, and then as he tilts, he's got his two tilts. Okay. We've got him facing that way. We've got tilt one way, tilt the other way. Okay. Then we're facing that way. And I think I had it backwards or something. Like that. Something like that. That might work. So I rotate, tilting the head left and right. And then we're facing left and right. He is looking a little bit 2D right now. And that'll come if I try and make a little bit of adjustments. Now, one thing I might try and do is I might be able to, in future editions, move this upper muzzle and make the lower jaw its own layer also, or just this lower bump right here. Because then I could actually move both of those as I rotate the head. But I should be fine as it is now. But I've got everything kind of working. One last, oh, and actually as I do my body, that's the head tilt. So as we do this, I'm actually going to add one more, and that's the chest floof. I didn't give that one its own frame, that's fine. Chest floof. Give it its own layer. And this is going to be a simple one, but as I do that angle, oh, I'm forgetting a lot of things. All right, but I got this chest floof, so with the angle, we're going to add 3 more. And so as we look to the side, we're going to do the same kind of little 2D distortion. And it's just going to help give a little bit of a 3D dynamic to it. That's a little extreme. There we go. Add this 3D dynamic again. Yeah. What it really needs is more the middle to be moved. So let's go to level 2. Ah. Alright, we got looking over, facing that way. There we go. Got that. Got that. And I'm actually going to pull that back to be centered. And pull that back to be centered. Okay. There we go. Got a little bit of that floof rotation. The hair can now be animated. So this is getting a little bit longer than I was expecting it to, but it's not going to be... We're getting near the end. So we're going to have same kind of... Actually, the head tilting left and right isn't going to be a big thing, but I do think X and Y on the hair is something that we can do. And we're not head, we need hair. Hair, there we go. Add multiple keyframes, and we're going to key that. Actually, you know what? Let's undo that, unlink them. Okay, so we've got X and Y, and we're going to add 3 keyframes to this. So we're going to have dead center, which is as it is. On this side, we're going to go for level 1, and we're just going to take the that now, level 3. There we go. And we're just letting the hair dynamically distort a little bit. Just to match. So as his head rotates, the hair kind of flexes with it. And then, because those keyframes are already made, now I can create 3 more and link them. So now these are already, the left and right of it all is already linked. Now we just need to add the up and down parts. So all we got to do is when we're down, pull it down a little more. When we're up, pull it up a little more. Ooh, and let's try and not show the underside of my head. There. Move it up a little bit, and you know what? We're going to have to move the hair in general down a little bit. Just because we don't want the hole right there to show up. And that would help out by creating part of that back of the hair if I was to make that a little bit more elaborate and fill in those gaps. So something else to note. But I think bring that down just a little bit. There we go. And now we're going to go over here. Bring it down just a little bit. And bring it up. And then the last one is down. There we go. So now the hair will kind of move with it. Now it's looking a little unnatural. Oh. It looks like at this point it's not really going down. So there's that. And that one looks like it's going a little bit too extra down. There we go. That's not too bad. Okay, and lastly, let's see, that's that head tilt left and right. We can give a little bit of animation to the ears for that, and we're just going to add 3 keyframes to those. And just so that while we're tilted over to the side, we can get these ears to animate just a touch extra. Try and keep it lined up with that hair just a little bit. Yeah, but the shape of the hair is kind of messing with it a little bit. That's not a big deal. You know, we're going to undo a little bit of that. I think we're just going to squish it up a little bit. And then on the other side, we're going to pull it down just a little bit. There we go. And then with the other ear, we're going to do the same thing, but in the opposite. Pull it down just a little bit. And then give it a little bit of a squish. There we go. Now the ears have a little bit of a wiggle to them. And then the other thing is, I think I might actually give them a little bit of rotation. This is where we really figure out if that back of the hair tuft works. Unfortunately, I can't really see it. Oop. And I totally rotated the object. Okay. Well, you know, I think that's pretty good. Now he's looking right, face forward. Jawline's not looking too bad. Was thinking this looked a little awkward, but now it's not too bad. And now, trying to see if there's anything else that I really want to manipulate. Have I messed with all of these? Chest, eyelids, hair, my ears, head. Yep. I think that's about all I need. And I hope that's a good example for everyone on how to create a face rig. Now all that's left is the export process and testing it out. And that concludes the animation and rigging portion of the tutorial. Stay tuned to the final part, part 6, where I'm just going to cover up some basic exporting and getting it into FaceRig, along with some tests and some after notes of a few extra tips. As you'll see, the avatar I'm using right now isn't 100% like the avatar I created, and it's going to cover a few of the little tweaks that I made to adjust it later, along with some methods of editing the image after you've finally created the avatar. So stay tuned.